These days, so many travelers are coming to Seoul, South Korea's capital and largest city, and this is my travel guide for first-comers to get the full experience. I've lived here for 10 years, and I've explored just about every nook and cranny there is to offer, and I'm confident this guide will help those wanting to eat amazing Korean food tucked away in a back alley, go back in time at the traditional palaces and temples, and experience the hustle and bustle of one of Asia's most modern megacities. I'll plan out a full week for you that takes you through all the major attractions, which are must-see places for first-time travelers. And you can find all the locations in this video listed in the description. So let's get started. We're gonna start out day one with a look at Korea's history in northern Seoul, right at Gangnam Square, a big walking square and one of Seoul's most important landmarks that dates back over 600 years. To get here, take the purple subway line number 5 to Gangnam Station, and get out of the station at exit 9. Here you can find various embassies and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that surround the square. So you get a strong sense of both the present and the past, with the statue of Sejong the Great, well known for the creation of the Korean alphabet called Hangul. Also stands a statue of Admiral Lee Sun-shin, who is famous for fending off over 300 Japanese warships with only 13 ships of his own. The water fountains represent the sheer number of warships he defeated with such a small fleet. If you keep walking north towards the mountains in the background, you'll arrive at Gwanghwamun, the main gate of Cheonggye Palace. Cheonggye Palace is the main palace of the Joseon dynasty, which spanned from 1392 to 1897 until the Korean Empire was founded, and it was built in 1395, and the largest of the 5 grand palaces built by the Joseon dynasty, which you'll see 3 of in this itinerary. You want to make sure you arrive here in time to see one of the palace guard ceremonies, which you can see for free after walking in the first gate. But it's 3,000 won to enter the main palace grounds, or free if you're 18 or younger, or 65 or older, or if you're wearing hanbok, the traditional Korean clothing, which I'd recommend checking out Klook to reserve the rentals in advance for cheaper. Inside the gates you go back in time, and you can check out Korea's traditional architecture, with the roofs called kiwa, which are shaped like smiles, and the underside of the roofs called tancheong, which is very symbolic to Korea, and was traditionally used to show power and authority. If you go on a weekday, Gyeongbokgung can be really tranquil and peaceful, and it should take about an hour to walk around. And after you're finished with the palace, it's time to exit the gate and walk east about 10 minutes to the Bukchon Hanok village. A hanok is a traditional Korean house, and the Bukchon Hanok village has hundreds of them that line the hillside. Bukchon means northern village, and it dates back over 600 years to the Joseon dynasty. And although it's a tourist spot now, these hanoks are still inhabited by people, so it's good to stay quiet and respectful when you explore. If you rented hanbok earlier, this is one of the most popular spots to take pictures at, but it's getting so popular that it might be a good idea to come here in the morning before Gyeongbokgung if you don't want to compete for space. Small gift shops line the alleyways with traditional souvenirs, and if you see something you really like, it's a good idea to buy traditional Korean souvenirs on day 1 or 2 if you follow this itinerary, as there will be the most options on these days. And to be honest, you don't have to stay here for too long. I just have a little look around, check out any shops or cafes you're into, and the view up top, and then walk back down. And if you're getting hungry at this point, there are little restaurants and cafes that you can stop at. And now it's time to head over to one of Korea's most important Buddhist temples, Cheonggye, which is just west of Seoul-dong and about 15 minutes by foot. Cheonggye is the center of Korean Buddhism. Constructed in the 14th century, it became the district head temple of the Cheonggye order, and the temple is still used to this day. So it's important to be respectful of those who come for religious purposes, and admire the beauty of the architecture, and the 3 golden Buddha statues inside. It's the perfect spot to feel peace and harmony, all in the middle of this giant megacity. Also, the pine tree you can see in the courtyard is over 450 years old, and it's usually decorated beautifully to match the temple. If you're in Seoul around Buddha's birthday, which falls in May every year, there are lanterns everywhere just like this, and they hold events here as well. There's also a gift shop that sells various Buddhist goods such as prayer bead bracelets and necklaces, and the street just outside of it sells a lot as well. You can also do a temple stay here, and across the street is the Temple Stay Center. And once you're finished sightseeing here, it's time to walk south about 8 minutes to the Cheonggye stream. The Cheonggye stream is almost 11 kilometers that originates in Seoul-dong Valley in Inwangsan and connects all the way across downtown Seoul to the famous Han River. There used to be an elevated freeway called the Cheonggye Expressway, which was built after a huge economic boom after the Korean War, and was disassembled in 2003 as part of an urban renewal project. And this is when the stream was restored, and the walkway was completed in 2005, which transformed this area completely and resulted in a big boost in tourism in the surrounding Chungno district. And by this point you're probably starting to tire out a bit, so it's time to relax. And Cheonggye is perfect for that, as it's below the busy streets, giving it a nice quiet and peaceful vibe. Take a seat on the edge of the river and just people watch. And when you have the energy, start walking east and check out some of the Chungno hardware alleyways just north of it, where you can see how things used to be done in Seoul, where they sell all sorts of hardware and gadgets, some modern and some from the past. And it's just great to watch everyone working and keeping these older alleyways alive. Just make sure not to get in their way. And then right beside the alleyways to the east is the Seoul Plaza. This was the shopping arcade for electronics before Yongsan, the most famous area for electronics in Seoul that's also starting to age. Seoul Plaza was built in 1968, and it's a blast of the past with some really old karaoke machines, radios, cameras, and other gadgets that give off a really cool retro vibe. If you go up to the second floor, there's a walkway that you can walk around outside a bit on, with some really cool old signs for electronics, and some nice views too, including a view of the rooftops of the hardware alleyway we just went through, and you really get a sense of just how dense they are. I really hope that these types of views don't go away in Seoul, as they're some of my favorite parts of the city. And by this point you're probably starting to get a bit hungry for dinner, and it's time to head to Gwangjang Market, which we can just see past the construction here. And it's just about a 5-minute walk east of Seoul Plaza. Gwangjang Market is one of the oldest and largest traditional markets in all of South Korea, with more than 5,000 shops and 20,000 employees. And it was started in 1905 when the Japanese took control of Namdaemun Market during the occupation of Korea. During this time, a group of private Korean investors decided to create a new market not under Japanese control, and founded Dongdaemun Market in 1905. Which eventually became Gwangjang Market as we know it today in 1960. Here you can find everything from clothes, agricultural and seafood products, and is now most well known for its food stalls, which line a massive section of the market. It's especially known for bindae-deok, or mung bean pancakes. And now that the market has developed a tourist reputation, the food stalls here aren't exactly cheap. But as a tourist with limited Korean skills, this is one of the only spots in the city that will give you this traditional, almost hectic atmosphere without having to go too far out of your comfort zone. So grab dinner here if you want, or in the surrounding area, and leave a little bit of room, as there's an optional end to the day that you really won't regret if you're in the mood for a beer. And it's about a 15-minute walk to the Yeouido Nogari Alley. And if you're ever getting tired on this trip and want to catch a taxi instead of walking, you just need the apps Kakao Maps and Kakao T, and click the Kakao Maps address located in the description, and just press Get Directions, Public Transportation, and then scroll down to the Kakao T icon, and you can easily take a taxi to your next destination. We're going to Yeouido Nogari Alley now, which is located just inside the alleyways near Yeouido Samga Station Exit 3, and gets absolutely jam-packed with people eating nogari, or dried young polak, and drinking beer at Manseonhop, which has been around since the 1980s. It's an absolutely amazing atmosphere that's unique to Seoul, and although it gets quite busy, it's the perfect place to chat the night away about the amazing day you just had, as you eat amazing food and maybe drink a bit together with Seoul's office workers and enjoy the amazing Korean nightlife after a successful day. And that's it for day 1, but we're gonna spend day 2 in the same general area of Jongno-gu, so you can combine both days if you're insanely fast at exploring, but I think taking 2 days to explore would be a lot better. We're starting day 2 in Insa-dong, a shopping area filled with traditional goods, galleries, and small cafes and restaurants. And you're gonna want to take the orange subway line number 3 to Hanbok Station. And if you're curious about how to ride the Seoul subway, we've made a video about it that goes really in depth to make it really easy for you. And when you arrive at Hanbok Station, get out at exit 6 and walk straight. Well, you'll find the main street called Insa-dong Culture Street, with little alleyways that branch out all over with cafes and restaurants everywhere, and shouldn't be skipped over. So this is a good place to grab a meal to start your day. I'd personally recommend Toma, where you can get Cheongshik, a Korean home-cooked meal with a traditional sopbap or pot rice, which you transfer to your bowl and pour hot water in to enjoy sungnyung when you're finished eating. and I'd recommend the moksa, or pork shoulder, as it was extremely tender and flavorful. After you've eaten something, Insadong is the perfect spot to buy traditional Korean souvenirs, and it's incredibly easy to find them all over the main culture street. And you can find more specialized goods at the Samjige, a multi-level shopping plaza that goes up in a spiral and has tons of smaller gift shops selling things for people of all ages. If you start to get a bit tired walking around, visit a traditional Korean tea house and try some traditional tea. This is the best area in all of Seoul to do so, and it's a really nice and relaxing experience, especially here at Jeontonggwang, which has a big outdoor area to sit at that feels completely secluded from the city, and it's incredibly peaceful on a nice day just to relax. Also, on top of Insadong being a shopping street, it's the perfect place to get a sense of traditional Korean fine art when it comes to paintings and sculptures, and you can find art galleries all over the main street and the alleyways. And once you've had enough exploring and shopping at Insadong, it's time to walk back up to Anguk Station and then head east 5 minutes on foot to Changdeokgung Palace. Changdeokgung Palace was the second palace after Gyeongbokgung, which we saw yesterday, and also one of the 5 grand palaces built by the kings of the Joseon dynasty. Built in 1405 and was used as a royal residence all the way up until 1989. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and includes 13 buildings on the palace grounds and 28 pavilions in the gardens. It's 3,000 won to get in or free if you're 18 or under, 65 or older, or wearing hanbok. And you can pay an additional 5,000 won to see the secret garden on a guided tour, which is limited to 100 people per session and can be reserved online or on-site first come first serve. But it can easily sell out, so it'd be good to reserve online in advance, and I think it's worth it if you haven't been before. The main Changdeokgung Palace itself is really beautiful with the double-decker kiwa roof, and a beautiful throne room, painted in Korean traditional colors of mostly red, green, and gold. It's a really peaceful spot to walk around, as you keep walking through these doors and little alleyways with something new to see around every corner. And after you're done exploring Changdeokgung, you can head just south and you'll reach Cheongmyo Shrine, which is optional, seeing as it's under repair until April 2025. Cheongmyo Shrine is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site that was built in 1394, and it's the shrine where the royal ancestral tablets of the ancient kings and queens were enshrined for sacrificial rites to be performed on them, and it only cost 1,000 won to enter. It was also known as being one of the longest buildings at the time. And after you enter the gates, it feels kind of like walking through the forest. And it's said that the spirits of the kings and queens walk on these stone paths, so you should be respectful and walk beside them. And it can be explored easily in about 30 to 45 minutes. And it's worth it just because it's so close to Changdeokgung and Insadong. After checking out the shrine, it's a good idea to get lunch or a snack nearby. And then it's a 20-minute walk east to Dongdaemun Station, or you can take the subway or taxi if you want. Dongdaemun means Great East Gate, which is also called Hungin-jimun, as it was the major eastern gate in the wall that surrounded Seoul during the Joseon dynasty, and was first built in the year 1398 under King Taejo's rule. You can take a small walk at the Hungin-jimun Park close to exit 1 of Dongdaemun Station to get a good view of Dongdaemun and its surroundings, which includes a ton of various department stores, and most importantly, the Pyeonghwa Fashion Town, which opened up after the Korean War, and it's where the North Korean refugees started selling clothing in 1953 made from US Army uniforms. Pyeonghwa means peace, and the shopping center was named in hopes that no other wars would be fought on Korean soil. It's absolutely massive, with multiple floors, and takes a good 5 minutes or so to get from one end to the other. And it's getting a bit dated, but it's a great place to be reminded where Korea came from. There are also a ton of more modern clothing department stores nearby, so this is a great area for people to look around for those who are shopping. And just south of it you can find the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, a very futuristic landmark in Seoul that was completed in 2013 and is now famous for Seoul's Fashion Week, a worldwide renowned event to display the latest fashion from the biggest brands. And it's also the perfect place to walk around, especially at night, as there are a bunch of paths that surround it and it's lit up, giving it a really nice futuristic vibe. A lot different than we saw earlier at Pyeonghwa Fashion Town. And inside you can find various galleries, gift shops, and restaurants to visit. And you can choose to eat dinner here, or if you have the energy, hop onto Purple Line number 4 at Dongdaemun History and Culture Park Station and ride it to Jongno Samga Station and get out at exit 6 to explore Ikseon-dong. Ikseon-dong is an area that changes depending on what time of day you go. So you could go there for dinner on this day, and then go to a cafe another day since there are tons of them that seem very popular with both locals and tourists. It's basically a bunch of alleyways filled with Hanok traditional Korean houses, and there are a ton of restaurants and cafes inside of them. I'd recommend checking out one of the barbecue restaurants like Chongsamyuk. It's a massive restaurant with outdoor and indoor seating, and even has a second floor. It has a super hectic vibe to it, but in a good way. And it's famous for kalmegisa, which is pork skirt meat, and it's absolutely amazing here, marinated to perfection and cooked on these traditional style coal Korean grills. I'd also recommend the kimchi jjigae here. It's incredibly savory and flavorful, filled with aged kimchi and pork, and you can reheat it on the grill if you want to, making it kind of a cool experience. Also, this would be a good time to try soju if you haven't yet, as it goes perfect with Korean barbecue. And there's no better way to end day 2. And if you're wondering about when to come to Seoul, we made a video about what you can expect from all 4 seasons in Korea, so check out the description if you're curious. Since days 1 and 2 were quite busy sightseeing, it's time to use day 3 to have more of a relaxing day, just enjoying your time in Seoul. You could start the morning visiting a random cafe in the neighborhood you're staying at, which you can use neighbor maps to find and just look at the pictures to see the atmosphere. This would also be the perfect day to head over to Hongdae at Hongik University Station in the morning, the home to Korea's independent youth and art culture, which has now become one of Seoul's most famous tourist areas. You'll be returning here on the last day, but there are so many things to do here, including a ton of restaurants, gift shops such as the Kakao Friend Store, the group of characters for Korea's KakaoTalk Messenger app, street vendors selling various foods, including marshmallow ice cream, shibwonbang, which is like a pancake filled with mozzarella cheese, or tanghuru, which is a candied fruit skewer that the young people are going crazy for now. Also, there are a lot of clothing and accessory stores here for young people, which should have more diversity than some of the other places you'll be shopping at in Seoul. And just before lunchtime, it's time to make yourself over to Yeouido Station, on the island of Yeouido. Yeouido is a man-made business district island that used to be an airport in the early 1900s, and is now a very modern district that has a little something for everyone. For those that like department stores, Yeouido is perfect for you, with the Hongdae department store being one of the biggest and most modern department stores in Seoul, with a massive diversity in selection and something for everyone of all ages. There is also a massive food court in the basement with tons of options. And then right across the street and connected by an underground walkway, you can find the IFC Mall, which also has a ton of stores and restaurants. You could honestly spend hours inside these 2 malls alone if that's your style. And if it's not your thing, I would definitely spend a lot more time in Hongdae browsing around until the afternoon. If you're more the outdoorsy type, Yeouido is a great place to try renting out one of Seoul's darengi bicycles, which you can rent with the Seoul Bike app. I'd recommend renting for 2 hours just so you have time, which you can rent for 2-hour sessions and return as many times as you want within the next 24 hours. So keep renting and returning as you please. I'd recommend riding through Yeouido Park a bit, which has a bike loop that goes around the entire park. And then head over to the Han River Park up north and ride along the river with great views of the city on one of the best bike paths in Korea. You could also stop at one of the convenience stores next to the path, try some instant ramen that cooks in minutes, and just enjoy riding and relaxing in one of Seoul's best outdoor areas. And then for dinner time, it's a good time to have a picnic on the Han River, watch the sunset, and stare out into the city as it changes to nighttime, either at Yeouido Han River Park, my personal favorite, or Pampo Han River Park, which has water light shows every night on the Pampo-daegyo Bridge. If you choose to stay at Yeouido Han River Park, there are a lot of great food options right inside the park, such as food carts right down the stairs from Yeouido Station Exit 2, and convenience stores all over that have BHC chicken right inside of them, which is a fried chicken place. And I'd recommend trying chimek, or chicken and beer, which is one of the most popular things to eat on the Han River. You could also order food delivery with the shuttle app, and make sure to specify Yeouido Han River Park delivery zone number 1, 2, or 3 on the app to arrange your meeting point easily. And here are the locations of the delivery zones. If you want to see the water light shows on Pampo-daegyo Bridge, then you should go to the Pampo Han River Park. To get there, you can either bike about 30 minutes east of Yeouido, or take the subway to Shinbampo Station and walk east out Exit 2, and then north to get to the Han River. The Pampo-daegyo water light shows happen every night at 7:30 and 8 p.m. And for dinner, you can choose to get takeout at one of the restaurants near the subway station, or there are usually food trucks right at the park when the weather is nice. There are also convenience stores, and you could order a food delivery here as well with the shuttle app as a tourist, and specify your address as Pampo Han River Park, Pampo-daegyo Delivery Zone, which looks like this, and I'll link all of these locations in the description. So please make sure to double check and make sure you have the right location before placing your order. And then it's time to relax and enjoy the night views of Seoul, one of the biggest cities in the world. And this is the best way to do it. Now it's day 4, and it's time to explore central Seoul, and we're gonna start right at City Hall Station on lines number 1 and 2. Get out at exit 5, and you arrive at Seoul Plaza, which is right in front of City Hall. Sometimes there are events here you can check out, and if it's wintertime, there will be an outdoor skating rink as well. And when you're ready to start exploring, cross the street to Seongsу-dong Palace, our first historical stop for today. Seongsu-dong Palace, like Gyeongbokgung and Changdeokgung, is also one of the 5 grand palaces built by the kings of the Joseon dynasty, and was built in the 1400s as a residential home of the Grand Prince Wosan, and was later designated as a temporary royal palace in 1593, when King Seonjo's palace was burnt down during the Imjin War, and became a proper palace in 1611. It costs 1,000 won to get inside, and once you're in there, it's really tranquil and peaceful, and the perfect place to walk around and explore for the morning. It's not as big as the other palaces, but I think it's still worth it just to go for a nice walk, enjoy the scenery between the traditional and the modern Seoul, and if you're interested, there are also contemporary art museums inside. Also for K-drama lovers, check out the stone wall pathway just outside the palace walls, which has been featured in tons of K-dramas such as Goblin and Misang. And once you're finished, it's time to walk south towards Seoul Station, and stop to check out Sungnaemun Gate along the way. Sungnaemun Gate is the official name for Namdaemun, or the Great South Gate, and one of the 8 gates of the fortress wall of Seoul, just like we saw at Dongdaemun or Hungin-jimun Gate on day 2, and it was the oldest wooden structure in Seoul, which had survived over 600 years through both the Japanese occupation and the Korean War. But unfortunately it burned down in 2008, and it was reconstructed in 2013. And after checking it out, keep heading down south to Seoul Station. When you arrive at Seoul Station, you should go inside the station just to get a sense of how massive it is, and experience how many people it services every day. Then follow the signs to the KTX trains, Korea's high-speed trains that go all across the country, including Busan, which is a trip that is a must if you're coming to Korea in my opinion. And we'll also cover more in detail in another video later. Inside Seoul Station, you can find various restaurants or cafes to stop at, so if you're getting hungry, consider giving one of them a try. There is also an outlet mall attached to the station, with a big supermarket and other restaurants as well. And then on the exterior, you might notice some protesting going on and religious groups, with it being such a central area for voices to be heard. And you'll see the old Seoul Station, which was built by Japan during its occupation and completed in 1924. So it has a little bit of a dark history, but it's now used as a culture complex. And from here, you might notice a walkway overhead. This is the Seoul 7017. Which was originally an overpass for cars to prevent congestion, and was transformed into a walking path in 2017. From here, you can get really great views of Seoul's biggest intersection right at Seoul Station, and get a sense of just how busy it is, especially with one of, or the absolute busiest bus interchanges in the country. And after exploring Seoul Station, it's time to start walking east on the path, all the way to one of the largest traditional markets in all of Korea, Namdaemun Market. Namdaemun Market has a huge history that dates all the way back to 1414, during the Joseon dynasty just after Seoul had just become the capital city. And a market was built in place in about the same location where Namdaemun Market stands today, which it now sells just about everything you can think of, including clothes, stationery, fine arts, kitchenware, accessories, and more. Namdaemun Market is a great place to just get lost in and explore all the Korean traditional goods that you can find, try out some street food, and enjoy the traditional and somewhat chaotic atmosphere. It's the perfect harmony between a tourist area and the residents that use it every day. And if you're ever lost, just ask one of these tour guides, as they're in every tourist area in Seoul. And there's even a street of camera stores with lots of camera equipment that's both old and new, which is my personal favorite area to explore. And sometimes you can find some hidden gems in there. And after seeing Namdaemun, This is a good time to grab some lunch in the area, relax for a bit until a couple hours before sunset, as we're going up to Namsan, the mountain in the middle of Seoul with the N Seoul Tower that probably looks familiar even if you've never been to Seoul. The entrance of Namsan is not that far away from Namdaemun. You just walk up the hill a little bit to the southeast, and once you arrive, you can choose if you want to take the cable car, which is 15,000 won round trip, or you can hike up to the top, which I strongly recommend as it only takes 30 minutes, and you get one of the best views of Seoul about halfway up. And once you're at the top, you arrive at a big plaza area, and you can see N Seoul Tower, towering over Seoul. And there's a bunch of convenience stores, cafes, and even a restaurant inside the tower. And sometimes they hold events in the plaza too. It's also up here that you can see all the love locks that I think have been shown in a lot of K-dramas, with vending machines around to buy them if you want to do it yourself. When you walk around the plaza, you get a lot of different viewpoints of Seoul, and you can see a full 360 degrees. So make sure to save this for one of the nicer and clearer days, just so you can see the amazing view and get a sense of how big Seoul is. Also, watching the sunset at Namsan is amazing, as you can see the city lights slowly turn on as it turns dark. Just enjoy the moment, grab a snack or something, and then head back down to Myeongdong the same way you came up, and you're at one of Seoul's most famous tourist areas. Myeongdong also dates back to the Joseon Dynasty when it was called Myeongnebang, and a residential area at the time. And it officially became Myeongdong District after Korea gained independence from Japan in 1946. And it became a popular and trendy district for shopping since the 1970s. Here you can find tons of stores that sell clothing, cosmetics, K-pop souvenirs, and even things like Korean snacks in bulk to take home with you. So spend some time shopping here if you're looking for more modern souvenirs from Korea. You can also check out the Myeongdong Cathedral, which is a popular location for demonstrations and protests in the 1980s and 90s. And also at nighttime there is a big street market with food vendors everywhere lining the street that are catered to tourists, so they're a bit pricey these days, but I'd have a really hard time not recommending it just for the atmosphere, as I know a lot of people really enjoy it, and it looks like there are some really tasty foods as well. Myeongdong's also a very popular spot for people to book a hotel in, but it's not my absolute favorite location for this. And we made a separate video on where to stay in Seoul that you can check out if you're curious. If you're still hungry after the snacks and street food, you can check out Myeongdong Gyoza, which is one of the most famous dumpling restaurants in Seoul. And this is the end of day 4, so spend as much time enjoying Myeongdong as you need. For day 5, it's time to explore Seoul's modern district of Gangnam, which literally means south of the Han River, and is also one of Seoul's most trendy areas that I barely visit, so take my recommendations with a grain of salt. But if you're into Korean fashion and luxury brands, or upscale cafes and restaurants, this is the place for you. Also, I know a lot of people that traditionally watch this channel won't be that interested, so if you don't care about Korean trends and shopping, a good alternative on this day would be to do a Seoul DMZ tour, where you go to the actual demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea, and you even get to step onto North Korean soil and see the North Korean guards. Unfortunately, it looks like the tours have been paused, but they'll return in the future, and I'll link the website in the description for further information. And another alternative is a museum day, and start out at the Korean War Memorial near Samgakji Station Exit 12, which is an absolute must-see if you're curious in the Korean War. It's free to visit, and has some really good visual exhibitions of what vehicles and weapons were used, and lots of details on the individual battles to understand how South Korea got to where it is today. And then there's the National Museum of Korea, which is really close to it, right by Icheon Station Exit 2, and a great way to go back in time before 2000 BC when rocks were used as tools, and see how Korea progressed all the way through the 3 kingdoms, the Joseon Dynasty, and then the Korean Empire. And you can easily spend most of the day at these 2 museums if they sound interesting to you. But if you're ready to check out modern, trendy Seoul, let's go back to day 5. We're gonna start the morning at either Jamsil's Lotte World Mall or COEX Mall by Samsung Station. Or if you want to see both, then start at Jamsil's Lotte World Mall, which is located right at Jamsil Station. Lotte World Mall is absolutely massive, filled with stores for people of all ages. And it's attached to the Lotte World Tower, the tallest building in Korea at 123 floors or 555 meters high, with an observatory called the Seoul Sky on the 118th floor, with the world's tallest glass floor, which is pretty insane looking down over 500 meters. And attached to the mall you can find a massive indoor ice rink, and a connected indoor and outdoor theme park called Lotte World Adventure, so you could easily spend all day here. Also, there's the Seokcheon Lake outside, which is a great place to spend some time walking around after you eat in the Lotte World Mall. And once you're finished here, if you want to check out COEX Mall as well, it's time to ride subway line number 2 3 stops to Samsung Station. To get to COEX Mall, follow the signs to Samsung Station exit 5 and 6, and you arrive at the plaza area and the entrance to COEX, which is especially famous for the Starfield Library, which holds over 70,000 books ranging in genre, and it's become an incredibly popular spot for tourists in recent years. This would be a good spot to start your relaxing morning, and then you could browse the mall's 300 stores and restaurants, go to the aquarium, or even catch a movie here at the Megabox Cinema if you want. Also, right across the street from COEX Mall, you can find the Bongwonsa Temple. Bongwonsa Temple is a Buddhist temple constructed all the way back in 794, and it's had quite the history too, since Buddhism was severely suppressed during the Joseon dynasty, which started in 1392 all the way until 1910, and then it caught fire in 1939, destroying most of the buildings, but it's been reconstructed and sits peacefully among Seoul's modern Gangnam area. And in my opinion, it's the nicest Buddhist temple to visit in all of Seoul, as it's quite big with a lot of different buildings to see. There is a massive Buddhist statue, and it's surrounded by trees and nature, giving it a nice peaceful atmosphere. After spending some time at the malls and Bongwonsa Temple, we're gonna ride subway line number 2 3 stops from Samsung Station to Gangnam Station. Gangnam Station is at the center of Gangnam-gu, and it's the home of Psy's hit Gangnam Style. When you first arrive, you can walk around inside the station a bit, as there are a lot of clothing and accessory stores aimed at young people. And then head out exit 10 or 11 for Gangnam's main strip, between Gangnam Station and Shinunhyun Station. Here you can find tons of restaurants, shops for people of all ages. You can go to a nice cafe, which can be found all over Gangnam's back alleyways, mostly just off the main strip. You could try one of the new import restaurants such as Five Guys Burgers from America or Tim Hortons from Canada, and just take a look around and see what's currently trendy in Korea, because there's a chance that if something is, it'll be here. And Gangnam doesn't really speak traditional Korean culture, and it's not really my style to be honest, but I know that it has to be included in a 7-day Seoul itinerary for first-time travelers, and it's definitely popular for a reason. After exploring Gangnam, we're gonna take the red Shinbundang line 2 stops to Shinsa Station, get out exit 8, and if you aren't tired of shopping yet, you're just about to enter the most luxurious area in Seoul. Shinsa is home to all the big luxury brands on the famous Garosu-gil, which you'll most likely notice right away with some luxury cars passing by, and people wearing all sorts of luxury goods to show off their wealth and class and style. It's also the center of plastic surgery in Korea, and there are clinics in basically every single building here. And it's a good area to just look around and browse, and find a luxury cafe if you want to relax. And when you're done with Shinsa, it's time to head to Apgujeong Rodeo to its east. Apgujeong Rodeo is also technically a part of Shinsa, and features lots of alleyways with upscale restaurants and cafes, and some pretty big department stores nearby too. And this is the spot we're gonna end today with some dinner, and it'd be good to check Naver Maps or even Google Maps to search for some places that look interesting in advance to go there. We checked out Taguroga, a takgalbi restaurant, which is spicy stir-fried chicken with rice cakes, cabbage, and other vegetables. And it was reasonably priced for the neighborhood, and pretty good too. And if you didn't get a chance to check out the water show at Pampodegyo on day 3, this is a good night to do it if you still have the energy, as it's just a short subway ride to Shinbanpo Station, or about a 30 to 40 minute walk along the river, and that'll end day 5. For day 6, we're going to check out Eastern Seoul with another relaxing day, and we're going to start out by going to one of Seoul's nicest parks, Seoul Forest. Seoul Forest is located at Seoul Forest Station on the yellow Suimbundang line. Get out exit 4 or 5 and walk straight to Seoul Forest, which is one of my favorite parks in Seoul, as it really feels like you get out of the city into a quiet, peaceful forest, It's a fun place to rent one of the darengi bikes nearby and bike around the park. Or you could grab some snacks from a convenience store and have a picnic. There are various playgrounds, gardens, and even deer which can be fed from time to time. Just find a spot to relax and enjoy the morning, and when you're starting to get hungry, there are alleyways nearby to the north with a ton of restaurants and cafes, but they get pretty busy. So you could also go directly west of the park where there's the Seoul Forest Flea Market. And there are also little restaurants such as the Seosu Bunshik, which I tried the rose dokboki or rose rice cakes, and it was pretty decent. Or you could save lunch for the next area, cause it's time to walk east a little bit to one of Seoul's hipster areas, Seongsu-dong. Seongsu-dong was the main location for shoe production in Seoul since the 1970s, so there are a lot of red brick industrial buildings all over, and a lot of the older factories have been converted into cafes, stores, and restaurants. The area is the perfect blend of the old and the new, and that's what brings so many people here to hang out, explore, and of course for lots of people to take Instagram photos, so be aware of that before you go. Seongsu-dong is also a great spot to stop for some food or go to a cafe. Just wander around the alleyways, get a bit lost, and I'm sure there will be some things of interest. And just like Gangnam, Seongsu-dong is not really my style, but it'll be right up the alley of those who are really interested in Korea's youth culture, vintage clothing, and just seeing how Korea's young people hang out these days. And once you're done with Seongsu-dong, it's time to walk about 30 minutes or take the subway to Chayang Station to get to Tuksum Resort. Tuksum Resort is another amazing spot in Seoul for a meal outside on the Han River during the sunset on a nice day. So remember in advance to save this day for a sunny day if possible. It's the most popular park on the Han River in eastern Seoul, and it has a completely different vibe than the Yeouido or Pampo Han River parks we showed earlier, with great views of Lotte World Tower, especially during the sunset. If you want to order delivery here, you can use the shuttle app, and remember to order the Tuksum Resort Delivery Zone 1 or 2, which are in the description of the video. If you want to eat fried chicken, a tradition of the Han River, there is a BHC, Gyeocheon, or Mom's Touch right inside the park, so it'd be a lot easier to just get takeout there instead of dealing with the hassles of delivery. And now you can make your decision if you want to end your day here, or if you want to go for round 2 at Konkuk University Station, just one stop away on the dark green line number 7, or about a 10-minute walk. The alleyways near Konkuk University Station near exit 1 are filled with everything you could ask for when it comes to nightlife, with bars everywhere, arcade games, and shoot-'em-up galleries, and it's not very touristy. So if you want to see how Korean university students hang out at night, this is a really good place to do it. I went to a bar called Osucha by myself for our video on how to eat alone in Korea, and it was a really friendly atmosphere that I'd recommend for people that are alone, and it was also really cheap. If you're with other people, just walk around the alleyways and I know you'll find a place that looks good, as there's seriously so many of them. It's now the final day in Seoul, and we're gonna spend the majority of the day in Mapogu, the district home to Hongdae in western Seoul. And I know each traveler will be different, so I'll give 4 different options to start the morning, which are all great options catered to different types of travelers. The first option is for those who might want to include a hike into their trip, and hike up Inwangsan, a mountain 340 meters in elevation, which can be completed in about 2 to 3 hours, and you can start from Cheonggye Station on the orange line number 3, get out exit 1, and walk to the path entrance, which follows the Seoul Fortress Wall up Inwangsan Mountain. And the climb isn't too steep or intense, and once you get to the top, the views of Seoul are absolutely stunning, and you can see really far. And if you're really hardcore, since it's facing east, you could catch the sunrise here if you want. If hiking isn't your thing, I'll give you 3 different neighborhoods that are all interesting for different types of people. Itaewon is the international neighborhood of Seoul, as it's located right beside what used to be the Yongsan Garrison, the headquarters for US military forces in Korea until 2018. Now typically I wouldn't recommend Itaewon to first-comers to Korea, as it's more of an international vibe than a Korean vibe, with a very big variety of restaurants and shops from other countries. But a lot of travelers love going there, so I had to include it just so you know about it and you can make your own choice. Also at nighttime, it's hopping with bars and clubs for people of all ages and especially tourist friendly. so you could end the night here no problem as well if that's your thing. For those looking for a trendy district that's incredibly popular amongst young Koreans, Yeonnam-dong is just north of Hongdae, and it has a vibe similar to Seongsu-dong that we explored yesterday, but a little bit more on the cozy side, with the narrow alleyways filled with smaller restaurants and cafes, and even some photo booths here and there. This area is so dense that there will be something for everybody, and the quality is reasonably high from my experience. Sinchon is the perfect place to walk around and see what university student life is like in Korea, with the campuses of Yonsei University and Ewha Women's University. These are two of the most prestigious university campuses in all of Korea, and they're both incredibly beautiful to look at and walk around for a bit in the morning. Also in the vicinity are a lot of incredibly cheap restaurants, and sometimes you get cool events going on, especially on Yonsei-ro, the main street between Sinchon Station and Yonsei University. For a meal recommendation, I'll recommend a donkasu or pork cutlet place called Goseong Donkasu, which is just 4,000 won for this, and surprisingly good quality and filling too. And after you've hiked Inwangsan or explored one of the neighborhoods I mentioned, it's time to go to one of the biggest traditional markets in Korea, Mangwon Market. Mangwon Market is filled with very affordable produce that many Koreans use that live close by. And to get here, take the brown subway line number 6 to Mangwon Station, get out at exit 2, and do a little U-turn into the back alleyways away from the main street. And this is what the entrance looks like. Mangwon Market has been around since 1975, when it opened as a standard traditional market. But in recent years, with the abundance of affordable housing nearby and many young people moving in, it evolved a lot to cater to the young demographic. And now it's become so popular that many tourists visit as well. Inside the market, in addition to the produce, there are a lot of street food type stalls that are gaining popularity with both Koreans and tourists. The first snack we're gonna try is hodok, which you can find at Hunun Hodok. Hodok is like a pancake filled with sugar, cinnamon, nuts, and seeds, and tastes similar to a cinnamon bun. But it's usually a bit crispy from being fried, which makes it amazing, and also my favorite dessert in Korea. Another recommendation is gochutigim, or fried peppers, which you can find at Uirak inside the market, which also serves several types of makgeolli or rice wine, and you can eat inside or get it to go. It has a really nice filling with pork and vegetables inside, and comes with 2 different types of sauces that both go perfect with it. And after snacking a bit, you can just keep on eating street food if you want, as there are plenty of other options too, or you can check out one of the restaurants or cafes, which Mangwon has plenty of in the area. And after you're completely stuffed, head for a little stroll along the Han River by heading west, and walk around Mangwon Han River Park, which has a lot of open space and areas to walk around and sit. And what I really recommend is taking all of those snacks you just bought at the market to go and eat them by the river. And after relaxing a bit, it's time to get ready for dinner. And there's no better place to end your 7-day trip than Hongdae. And to get there, it's about a 20-minute walk, or you can take the subway to Hongik University Station. I've introduced Hongdae already, but as a reminder, it's the area that was the birthplace of a lot of independent Korean artists and musicians. That's now one of the biggest tourist areas in Seoul. It's absolutely filled with restaurants, cafes, clothing stores, anime stores, gift shops, arcades, photo booths, bars, and clubs. Or in other words, it's a theme park for young adults, especially at nighttime. Get out at Hongik University Station exit 9, take a direct left into the alleyways, and you'll find a lot of restaurants all lined up in a main strip, and a lot more all over the alleyways. All of the restaurants in Hongdae are familiar with tourists who can't speak Korean, so you can order with ease and just enjoy your time, which is why common franchises such as Yugane, which serves 닭갈비, and Semaul Shikdang, which is a barbecue restaurant, are so popular here. If you're looking for something a bit calmer, consider walking along the Cheonggye Forest Park outside exit 6 and pick one of the restaurants that lines the beautiful walkway. Also, you should check out the main Hongdae shopping street, lined with accessory and clothing stores. And if you want to have some fun, check out one of the airsoft shooting ranges or Jang Games, a massive 4-story arcade, both located on the same shopping street. And then as it gets late, Hongdae turns into a party. So keep in mind that it's going to get loud and hectic, as there are tons of bars and clubs, and it's the perfect place to celebrate the end of your trip. And that wraps up 7 days in Seoul, with a good mixture of tourist areas and local areas. And there are tons of things to do all over the place that couldn't make it into this video. So if you're looking for some inspiration on places to go that are a little bit off the beaten path and less touristy, stay tuned for another guide in the upcoming months, as there are some really interesting places to share with everyone that not many tourists know about. I just want to say thank you so much for sticking it through to the end of this video. I really hope it was a bit helpful to plan your trip to Seoul, and if you liked it, please help us out and press the like button. If you want to see similar videos in the future, consider subscribing and joining our Patreon if you have the financial flexibility to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a wonderful trip to Seoul.